Good afternoon, all. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone here. At this time, Ms. Byram, can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Hopkins.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Page.
Here.
Mrs. Quintern. Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the presence of a quorum.
Thank you very much. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Dr. Hornick, are there any adjustments to the agenda tonight?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Hearing that there are no adjustments to the agenda, I would so entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Consent agenda. And I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda with minutes and financial reports.
Okay, just a minute. I make a motion we approve the May 22nd minutes and the July financial report and the food services report as presented.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. The next up is the monthly operating bills. I would entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve the July 2023 operating bills in the amount of $7,036,109.23.
Thank you, and I reviewed those as well, so I will second that motion and call for everybody in favor by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. The next up is presentation of proposed policy revisions to facilities. Dr. Hornick, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. We will have Mr. Rudder will come forward, and he will explain over the past few months. Mr. Rudder and Mr. Honaker and myself, they've been doing some investigating, as well as Mr. Arnold a little bit as far as facility use and the usage fees. And Mr. Rudder is here to give an update about some proposed changes to those fees. Go ahead, Marshall.
Thank you, Dr. Hornick. Madam Chair, members of the board. This evening, Laura's pulling up the slide here. What we have here on the left is our current fee schedule that's been pretty outdated. And then we have on the right the proposed fee schedule. And you'll see there's quite a substantial jump. But a lot of what we did is we merged, instead of having a utility fee and a usage fee, we've gone to just a simple rental fee. So members of the cabinet, Dr. Hornick and myself, the cabinet team, came up with these new hours, and we also included Ms. Stone, the AD at the high school. This is in line with what it really costs for us to get our buildings turned on, the lights, the air conditioning, and is a proper facility use when you take in the other counties around us. The other counties that were looked at was Madison, Louisa, Spotsylvania, and Culpeper. So wanted to bring this before you this evening, let you take a look at it. If you have any questions, entertain those. Please.
Yes, I have a question. On the left, it seems to be one price for weekends and another price for during the week. Is that correct?
Correct, sir. You see it's a utility fee applicable from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. on weekends and all hours on the weekends and holidays. Basically, it's any time that the building's not used for our staff, faculty, and students.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So
Yes.
in other words, it really costs them $15 an hour for the gym. Is that what?
Correct. Under the old one, for example, the Hornet Sports Center, if that's what you're looking at, sir, it'd be $15 per hour for the utility fee, and then another $15 for the usage fee. So it'd be a $30 an hour, and we're looking to propose $100 an hour for that.
Okay, have you gotten an application from the ladies that play volleyball here on Monday nights?
Yes, sir, and that's been approved. That's already gone through.
They're going to be able to pay $50?
So let's see, under the new one, $50 an hour, minimum 3 hour. I have not asked those ladies if they can pay for that. I believe we've worked out with them in the past, sir, due to their circumstances, and I worked with you and Mr. Barry in the past about that was an organization that was waived usage fees.
Well, all I can say is they've been playing here for 40 years, and I'd hate to see them stop because we raised the fee.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hopkins, I understand. The reason for the raise of the fee is because it was costing us a lot in electricity and lights to get the building on and the air conditioning and the heat. I'm sorry, sir?
Let me speak to that.
Yes, sir.
When we build these buildings,
Yes, sir.
we ask the public to give us the money. It's all Orange County money. It's nothing comes from Richmond, nothing comes from Washington. These people sitting right here pay the bill. Now, when we do that, we tell them we put an auditorium or we put a gym in a school. And we tell them that this will be available for them to use when the school was not using it. Matter of fact, most school systems talk of auditorium because an auditorium is a nice thing to have. It's not a necessity. So, and they cost a lot of money. My point is, I think the fee should be, if it was just for one time using the building for $50, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But I mean, they're going to probably play, well, you have the application. How many weeks are they? 16 weeks?
Yes, sir. I don't have that information of
Okay,
their
well,
use,
okay.
their term in front of me, but yes, it's for a few months.
But I mean, you pretty much the insurance rate. By the time, if they did it 16 times, that's $800, and then they're paying insurance on top of that. It's $200 or $300. So you're over $1,000 for them to use the building, and I just think it's too much.
Understood. Yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. My question was, you mentioned seeking reference based on other school systems.
Correct.
Is that something we could look at?
Yes, I'd be happy to share this with all the board members and Madam Chair, you too.
Put it into perspective.
Most definitely.
Thanks.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Marshall. Next, we have Mrs. Ayler, who will come forward to provide an update on character education in Orange County. Susan?
Alrighty. So under the Code of Virginia, we are required to teach character education in our schools. And much like we would adopt a textbook for reading, for language arts, reading, science, math, we approached looking at our resources for character education in the same way. So the first thing we did was we formed a task force, and we had it open for lots of people within the school division to be members of the team. We had myself, Dr. Brooking, several school counselors, several student support coaches, an administrator, and Mrs. Anderson was on our committee as well. So the first thing we did, we started with looking at the Code of Virginia. What does it actually task us to do? Following that, then we met regularly we've met since February. And what we did was looking at what the Code of Virginia told us we needed to teach. Then we looked to Virginia Department of Education for our resources, because we always look toward the Virginia Department of Education for approved resources and textbooks for all of our other content areas. So in looking at the Virginia Department of Education, we then matched that with what we were currently using, and what we were using at the time was not on the approved list any longer. So we set that aside and started to look through the resources that the Virginia Department of Education offered. they have some standards and some curriculum frameworks that they give to us. And in the code and in the resources through Virginia Department of Education, it states that school divisions can pick and choose what they want to adopt. They could do all, some, or none. And so what our committee did was we actually meticulously went through every single standard that Virginia Department of Education had, and we pulled out the ones that we felt were relevant and appropriate and developmentally appropriate for students in Orange County. Following that, and we had a unanimous group, whatever we decided on was unanimous, everybody agreed. And from then, we broke into groups by grade levels and looked at the resources that the Virginia Department of Education offers. One of the real important pieces that we said were, we wanted it to be something teachers could really use, that it didn't task them to go through lots of stuff, that it didn't take a lot of extra time. And Virginia Department of Ed, they offer a lot of resources, and some of them were, it was like a lot. They had, hundreds of pages, and we didn't feel that that was fair to ask a teacher to then comb through. And we wanted to make sure we picked out the activities that we felt were appropriate for our students. So that's what our committees did. And we came back together and we have listed our character education. We also termed them essential skills for character education. And we've listed them by grade bands. We've listed the essential skills that our committee targeted, and then looked at what are the resources and strategies that we recommended. The next step in the process would be to bring it to the school board and ask permission to then put it out to the public, so that all of our parents and community members could then look at what we have developed and give us feedback before we actually move forward with any type of an adoption. And so that's the space where we're at now, is bringing our draft for the board to, I can answer questions, or, and then our ultimate goal is we'd like permission to post it on our website so we can get feedback from parents and community members.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Ms. Ayler?
It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and all the members of the committee worked really hard, and we met frequently, and but everybody was really dedicated and had a very vested interest in doing what was good for our students.
Now, I see some links in here. What?
They actually take you then to the actual activity or the video, so that we wanted to make it very user-friendly for teachers, so that, like I said, they don't have to comb through all the resources, that it takes it straight to the resource for them so that they don't have to think about it. And we give them options. So where, say, for kindergarten, we have some strategies over on the far right. It doesn't mean they have to do all the strategies. We're giving them a couple options to choose from, what they're most comfortable with and what's best for their students.
Are there any objections to Ms.?
I do have a question.
Okay,
So
go
I know we had sent this out to some teachers, and have we gotten any additional feedback from them, their thoughts on how they feel they would incorporate this, or where they would incorporate this, things like that?
They did talk a little bit about maybe incorporating it into like morning meetings or classroom meetings, or school counseling lessons that the counselors went into the classrooms and taught.
Okay.
But all the feedback that we got was that they appreciated the condensed version, and that they weren't going to have to sift through a lot of things. But there was no feedback as far as taking things out or
Okay.
changing anything.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tell me how this works in a high school. I was a high school teacher. Where does this? What class do you teach this in?
So when you get to the high school section, it is by grade bands, grades 9 and 10, and then 11 and 12. And a lot of what we wanted to put in those bands were essential skills that they would need for the workplace. So some of these things students can work on in their advisory section, so that they have advisories this year at the high school. I believe it's 30 to 40 minutes every day in their advisory, so that they will work on some of these. But there's also times when the school counselors go into the classrooms They typically target an English or maybe a social studies because those are required courses, and tie it into any lessons that they might have in those classes as well.
Tell me about the advisory. I'm not sure. I think I know what guidance counselors do, but
The advisory is set up, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Hornick, it's been set up so that students go to the same advisory each day of the week. They now have kind of a point person of someone they can ask questions to. That teacher can then help them when it comes to course selections, making sure they're getting all the information that they need, getting out pertinent information. It's also a time when they can get extra help on assignments. Maybe there's makeup tests, quizzes, those type of things. So it's a good time that students can use for remediation, enrichment, additional activities.
okay, and this happens every day?
Yes, sir.
How long?
I think it's 30 to 40 minutes.
It's
30, okay. I'd heard the discussions between 30 and 40, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, are there any objections to Ms. Ayler putting this out on the website? for
No, I
parents?
think putting it out for public comment is exactly the thing we should do.
So we'll organize a Google form for parents to then be able to see everything, and of course, all the links are activated, and then a Google form where they can actually give us feedback.
Perfect.
Sounds great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Ayler.
All right, thank you, Susan. And then, for our last one this evening, we're presenting to you privacy and parent notification. And this information comes per request to bring forward policy based on the recent guidance from the Department of Education. And so we have worked to bring the board what we have termed kind of three options this evening to consider. And so the first, which we have is designated what's model policy. This document is, for the most part, there were a few small grammatical changes that we noticed. If you can scroll down for me, Laura, I'll give you one example. I hear a number right there, number 3, go back up, where it says Orange County Public Schools complies with all applicable federal and state discrimination laws. For instance, in the Department of Ed's rollout, they left the word act out of the Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972, so we added that in. We found just small, kind of grammatical, readable changes. And so when you look at the model guidance that was sent from the DOE, this particular document is 99.9% a copy of that, where school division has been replaced with Orange County Public Schools. So that's one potential option. Second is the document that we have titled Orange County. And Susan, this may be where our red line kind of yellow document might come to help. As we were looking through the model guidance, we determined there were quite a number of areas in which we already have policy in place. And those areas were particularly with respect to like policy JO and our maintenance of student records. For our dress code policy as well as regulation, as well as our bullying, the information that has come out, and particularly with the 24 hours notice, et cetera. And we have policy and regulation covering those. And so when you look at document 2, you will see it's a shorter document because what we did is we removed those parts that seemed redundant, where we already had overarching policy enumerated, and we cross-referenced those policies at the bottom. If you have that yellow line. And so as an example to show how we got from one to the other, ahead and scroll down, Laura. We went through and we highlighted the sections in kind of a block format. So, for instance, what is come from the VDOE as letter B when it talks to response to bullying and harassment. In the second document, which is titled Orange County, that information that's in yellow is removed, and we have a cross-reference in the bottom to the policy and the regulation that talks about how we respond to bullying and harassment. In what is letter C on this document before you, this is covered in policy JO, and so that section is removed, and we've cross-referenced JO. So essentially what happens is where letter D, identification students, by way of eliminating these two sections, becomes the new letter B in the Orange County policy. And so that's how we went from step one to step two. And then, of course, there is a third option that could be followed. And as was done in 2021, the school board at the time did not make new policy based on the model guidance rollout. However, there was assurance that the practice and the procedures in place were established that would be in line with the model guidance. And we certainly can, and we certainly are and will continue to remain in line with the model guidance. And we currently are ensuring that we do that at our building sites. And so certainly a possible third way to go is to not create policy and have practice and procedures that are in line with the VDOE's model guidance. And so we bring forward these, and there was no necessarily real way to write that like easily that you can for a model policy. So that's why I'm anecdotally reviewing that here tonight at the meeting. And so we have worked with our division council for the creation and the kind of the vetting of each of these pathways. He is absolutely willing to come out and meet in a closed session to answer any questions that board members may have. And that's just a kind of a short overview of how these three options were created in response to a request to bring recommendations forward. So I think that pretty much covers, I think that hits the highlights, so we're certainly available for any questions at this time. And of course, our division council is prepared to come and meet as well, and we can schedule that at your convenience, and it could potentially be at the next board meeting, September 11th. I can certainly make that happen. So we wanted to bring this forward this evening and apprise the board of some various options that could be pursued.
So, given the recommendations, what is the will of the board?
I like the second one. There's no use, how it fits into our policies, there's no use having to write the dress code, and that's addressed in one place, so there's no reason that has to be in here. I like it pretty much as it is. I would suggest one thing, though, because at the very end, when it talks about athletics, I think we maybe need to add something in there, because we do athletics. I think when you say athletics, most people think of our sports program, that we have teams that compete with other people. I think it needs to be added in here that we do that through the Virginia High School League. And I don't think the public really understands that the Virginia High School League, this board does not control the Virginia High School League. We cannot tell them what to do. We either follow their rules or we don't play. That's so I don't want us to make a policy here that doesn't. It needs to tell the public that we can only control what we have authority to control, and we can't make policy for the Virginia High School League.
I would be interested in speaking with the attorney, so I would like to set that up so we can answer some questions that I have regarding the policy.
Okay, I'm in agreement. So I think that we will consult with legal counsel and have them here at our next board meeting, which will be September the 11th.
Yes, ma'am, I will coordinate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, no, no, I said that I would like to speak with the attorney about some questions that I have regarding the policy. So I would like him to set that up for us so that we could all have he could answer our questions all together.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all for reports and recommendations. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
So that concludes all the business on the agenda tonight. So, can we have closed session certification? Mr. Jones?
Certainly. Pursuant to 2.2-3711A Code of Virginia, the Orange County School Board will convene a closed meeting for the following: discussion of personnel. The performance of division employee is authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia for resignation, termination, transfer, employment, salary adjustment, and retirement of employees. Discussion of pupil personnel as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A2 for early admission, waiver of compulsory attendance out of county, out of district requests, and student discipline. Discussion or consideration of reports or plans related to the security of school division facilities or safety of person using school division facilities as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A, Section 19 of the Code of Virginia.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you. We're in closed session.
Thank you.
as soon as I get it in my hand. All right. So can we have closed session certification, please?
Whereas the Orange County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires certification by the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Therefore be it resolved that the Orange County School Board certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and only public business matters were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Hopkins,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Page.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the vote as follows: 4 yes votes, no votes, with 1 member absent.
Thank you. Disposition of personnel actions, Dr. Hornick.
Yes, ma'am. Recommend approval of the personnel actions as presented in closed session.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to accept personnel actions as presented?
I'll make that motion that pursuant to 3711A of the Code of Virginia, the Orange County School Board convened and discussed personnel and performance of their, of the division employees. It was authorized by 3711A1 of the Code of Virginia for resignation, termination, transfer, employment, salary adjustment, and retirement of employees. Also, discussion of pupil personnel is authorized in 2.2-3711A2 for early admission waiver of compulsory attendance out of county, out of district requests of student discipline, and discussion of consideration for the reports or plans related to school security of division facilities or safety of persons using school division facilities as authorized by section 2.2-3711A19 of the Code of Virginia.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, disposition of pupil personnel actions, Dr. Hornick.
Yes, ma'am. Recommend the disposition of pupil personnel actions as presented in closed session.
Thank you. Now we need the PP numbers.
I'll make a motion on those PP numbers as PP-24-01 through PP-24 through 010.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And now, the certification of the annual review of school division crisis plan. Can I have a motion to accept?
Make a motion that we approve that plan as presented in closed session.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Are there any comments from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I was really pleased that my colleagues on the board were willing to change the school board meeting to facilitate me to take part in a revival service next Monday night at one of our black churches. I'm not preaching, but I am taking part in the ceremony. I think when I leave being a school board member, that you are willing to do that.
Well, thank you,
Be one
Mr.
of the things
Hopkins.
I remember.
Yeah. All right. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.